You going through this transformation process, you going through shadow work, you may be experimenting with different things. Now you get on the other end of things. What now? What do you do? Peace and blessings to all. Hope that everybody's doing well today. My name is Trinity, and on this channel I'll talk about African spirituality and self-improvement. Today we're going to talk about life after a spiritual awakening. You know, what happens, right? You going through this transformation process, you going through shadow work, you may be experimenting with different things. Now you get on the other end of things. What now? What do you do? The initial experience of the spiritual awakening process by nature can be very chaotic and overwhelming. There's this concept of the dark night of the soul that you may be familiar with, where all those shadows, all those things that you may not have processed as a child have to come up to the surface to be processed and to be transmuted, right? And as you go through this ego death, so to speak, you emerge on the other side as your true self, right? As your self that knows your purpose and who has a vision, a positive vision for who you want to be and what you want to do in the world, right? And through that process, right, what makes it overwhelming is the destruction of all of our preconceived notions, right? Your reality splits, right? So make you feel like you're going crazy, essentially. So first thing I want to do is talk about some misconceptions when it comes to life after the spiritual awakening. A lot of us going into a journey like that, we have this notion that once we get to some point on the other side, now, you know, all is well, all is done, all is good, you know, peaches and cream, and, you know, life has never been better. But in actuality, life itself is a continual process, right? And as long as you have the body that you live in, you will always be awakening. You will always be getting deeper into knowledge of yourself, into knowledge of those around you, and just into that vibration of, you know, love or, you know, peace and harmony. But that does not mean that you won't continue to go through the same cycles that you have gone through. You're just doing it with consciousness. You're doing it with awareness, right? So therefore, you're not at the whim of how those things affect you, but you're able to actually sit with your emotions. You have the emotional intelligence, and you have the maturity level, you have the experience, right? You have the temperament now to actually go through the cycles of life, the challenges of life, and take them in stride, right? To make something out of it as opposed to feeling hopeless, right? So the first thing that we have to understand about the spiritual journey, right, is that initial awakening is not the end. It is only an initiation. It is only the beginning. Once you become aware of your spirit, that doesn't mean you're inevitable to pain and suffering. And in fact, in my personal journey, I feel that now that I've been on my spiritual journey, because I was holding this misconception that, you know, now I'm on this spiritual journey, you know, I'm doing this work and I'm healing myself, I won't get hurt again. But the fact of the matter is that your energy, when you open your energy up and you begin to get back into that childlike state that oftentimes has been neglected and abandoned, if you get hit in some type of way with this increased level of awareness, it may be likely that you may experience more pain or more of the pain that you would have. And that's something that's, you know, been a tough pill to swallow. Because, you know, I kind of get in this space of like, why am I still dealing with these same things if I've done all this work already, you know? But at the end of the day, like we said, it's a continual journey. And some of the things that you go through, you may go through for longer than you may expect in your lifetime, just because you're meant to do that. And although we are living this spiritual journey, we are living as spiritual beings, right? We do have bodies, right? So there's real physical work that needs to be done, right? Things like exercise, things like, you know, breathing, you know, things like eating better, right? These things will help us tremendously in the pursuit of our goals, right? And this is where I'm at for, you know, this upcoming astrological year, right? My goal is I have to be more in my body, right? I've done a lot of things and a lot of work mentally and spiritually and emotionally. So I've cleared out a lot of space. But in order for me to truly like embody and live and manifest what it is that I desire, there's a relationship to my body that needs to be strengthened, right? So grounding. But when it comes to what can you do to best move forward and continue this process that we've started, right? My number one recommendation is to have a creative outlet, right? The importance of creativity in this process is that creativity allows us to constantly have a tool to transmute whatever our experience is, right? If we're super happy one day and we had this great 3 months or so, right? And we're just filled with bliss and joy, you have the opportunity to then document, to then crystallize that experience in a form of expression, right? Whether that be a painting or a poem or a song, whatever. But when I'm going through depression or anxiety or times of self-doubt, again, I can go and transmute those feelings into some piece of art, right? And the purpose that they serve, this creative outlet, is that emotional energy, like we said, you're no longer at the whim of it. You get to use it as you choose. But what creativity allows you to do is when you have this manifested creation, you can always go back to it depending on what it is that you need or what you want to reflect on. Or maybe what someone else's need, what someone else needs, right? If someone else is going through something that you went through and you're like, oh, you know what? I wrote a poem in this time. I like to share it with this person because maybe it may help them on their journey, right? Number 2, which is very important, you need a routine of spiritual hygiene, right? Because like we said, once you open yourself up and you get back into that childlike state, especially in the society that we live in, which is not really receptive to a life of spirituality and, childlike wonder and imagination, right? It's important that you keep yourself cleansed as we go through the things that we go through day to day, right? Some of us may still have jobs to work. Some of us may have children or parents to take care of, right? So it all depends on like this day-to-day journey that we have to live, maintaining a contact with your spiritual self, maintaining that clarity to the spiritual self and the work that you're doing. Number 3, what I would recommend is for you to find a community with like values, right? Find a community that as you move along this journey, find people and communities that are also moving in that direction, right? We're not here to move alone, right? We're not here to be on islands. And this is something that, I am growing in as well because, I'm an introverted person by nature, but it's very difficult to do this alone. And I haven't done it alone, even when I wanted to, right? So it takes a level of surrender, it takes a level of vulnerability, but put yourself out there and connect with other people. What they say, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go with others. And the 4th recommendation I would have is to commit to something higher than yourself, right? This can be in the form of a religion or a particular spiritual tradition, or maybe you start something like a non-profit, right? That you get to pour the fruits of your spiritual labor, that you get to pour the fruits of your clarity and growth into and give it as an offering for someone that comes after you, right? That's very important, I think, in the spiritual journey. I think it is important for us to, number 1, understand who we are and begin living for ourselves first. But ultimately, I think those of us who choose to embark on a spiritual journey already have an inclination towards servicing and helping others, right? To bring light to society as a whole, right? So identifying the ways in which you'll be able to do that and moving forward. So as we see these things line up and go into each other, right? You have a creative practice, right? You have a practice of spiritual hygiene. You are communicating and networking with like-minded individuals and pursuing something higher than yourself, right? So it has to become a part of your life, right? It's not something that we do one time. We don't just have the awakening and then the rest of our life is peaches and cream. We had this awakening in order to integrate that aspect of ourselves, in order to integrate the fullest awareness of ourselves, others, and the world around us, so that as we're moving through it, we're doing it with intention and not just with numbness or mindlessness, right? It's all about mindfulness and presence, right? So once we achieve that state beyond, all of the pain that we may have gone through and repressed, It is then our job to maintain that state of clarity each day. Check out my playlist entitled Sacred Science 101. This is my playlist to go into different spiritual concepts and how to live that day to day. Once we get through this honeymoon phase with our spiritual journey, it's important for you to choose, how you want to continue living your life, with the understanding that you are spirit in a body. I want to know that it's reasonable to take a step back from spirituality in order to figure that out, right? You don't have to, go at the same force as you had to along the chaos or along the, the combustion of that initial phase, but to carry forward with some level of continuity, some level of consistency and discipline, I think is necessary, but also not to force yourself or to try to rush yourself into some state, right? Patience and, me and patience are developing a better relationship, but, it is important, right? So with that said, I'm wishing everybody a positive rest of their day or beginning of their day or night, wherever you may be. And I'm wishing you blessings and peace and continued progress, continued prosperity along your journey. All right. I'll say peace.